Mention AK-47, and you think of its legendary durability. From -20 degrees Celsius frozen tundra to sand-swept deserts, it always fires reliably. Today's ROG Strix seems to share that toughness. This Strix 9X3D is Mr. Jin's, bought at launch last year from Duckong Reviews. Since then, it's been with him in Africa, back for the new year. He sent this veteran for a full service, plus fix some annoying glitches. Let's check its condition. Honestly, after its time in Africa, every inch of the chassis is caked in brown dust. I am curious, is African dust different? Usually, we see yellowish dust, but this is deep brown, almost reddish. Normally, the Strix 9's keyboard intake is a great cooling design, but in extreme conditions, it becomes a vacuum, accelerating dust buildup, not a clean spot on the keyboard. Even the fingerprint-covered screen is the cleanest part. No exaggeration, this Strix is theft-proof. No thief would touch it. One touch, and dust pours out, leaving undeniable evidence. After that stunning exterior, let's run a benchmark to see its remaining performance. During the FPU stress test, this 7945HX3D was a nightmare for 15 minutes. It was thermal throttling at 95 degrees Celsius, with only 115 W power. -1 minute later, as the DC limits kicked in, power dropped to 110 W, but tongue stayed stuck at 92 degrees Celsius. Next, the stress test. The 5070T saw major power throttling, holding only around 105 W. Total core power was just 160 W. Similar to the TX6 Pro, CPU temp was 79 degrees Celsius, while the GPU hit the 86 degrees Celsius thermal wall. Thermal performance was abysmal. As for benchmarks, in Cinebench are 23 multi-core. A single run hit 38,754. The 10-minute loop hit 36,744. This is way below what this CPU should do. Then 3rd mark for GPU performance. TimeSpy was a disaster. Scoring only 16,505. It even failed the TimeSpy extreme stress test, with stability at just 96.3%. Real gaming was a total train wreck. Both CPU and GPU hit thermal walls. GPU power was capped at 110 W. The CPU throttled 570 times due to heat. Average FPS was only 180. The Strix G's gaming experience was severely compromised. After seeing these terrible results, let's give it a deep clean. First, remove the 11 screws on the bottom. Then, gently pry it open along the edges. The moment the cover came off, dust exploded everywhere. It was blinding and suffocating. Despite all the dust in this Strix G18, it's different from the SCAR models we cleaned. Here is no sticky sludge inside, but that doesn't mean it's easy to clean. Everywhere you look, fans, heatsinks, motherboard, it's a mess. The dust filters are completely clogged. It looks like an ancient artifact. With just a slight shake, dust falls everywhere. Can't work without a mask and gloves. First, remove the small fan screws. Then carefully disconnect the battery. Next, remove the RAM, SSD, and Wi-Fi card. Finally, Disconnect the main fan cable. Remove the fan. Luckily, the fan blades on this Strix G15 aren't clogged with grease like the Scar models. It's mostly just static dust, but this dust needs a thorough wash to stop it from getting into ports or under chips, which causes poor contact. After removing the thermal module, the mess is revealed. The thermal interface material is badly aged. The CPU-S phase change pad has pumped out, and the GPU-S liquid metal has leaked out. It's shifted completely off-center. The dust on the motherboard is shocking. Given this terrible condition, the board needs a full deep clean. Before removing the motherboard, use an alcohol-soaked swab to gather the scattered liquid metal droplets and remove them. Wipe off the CPU SPCM and thermal putty too. Once that's done, we can start removing the motherboard. After taking it out, you can see even hidden spots on the back have accumulated tons of dust. From the dust patterns, you can see the shape of the keyboard intake. Now, this Strix G15 is fully disassembled. Not a single part of this machine is clean. Even the back of the battery is dusty. Next is the most satisfying part: cleaning the motherboard. Now, let's handle the thermal module. First, clean off the liquid metal and paste. Then scrape off all the thermal putty. Finally, use a toothbrush on the surface and the dust in the fins. Next, use WD-40 contact cleaner to wash the entire module, especially the fin area. You can see, as the cleaner flows through the fins, it turns from clear to yellow. That's how much dust was trapped inside. No wonder the cooling was so bad. The CPU pad pumped out in less than a year. After cleaning the heatsink, let's move on to the fans. Since here is no sticky grease, we can use WD-40 contact cleaner. Note that you should spray from the label side down to keep solvent out of the motor and avoid stripping the bearing grease. Finally, use a toothbrush to clear any remaining dust. With the core parts ready, let's clean the laptop case. Use a brush and vacuum to clear dust from every corner. Also, clean the keyboard gaps. You can use the vacuum here too. Thanks to the keyboard air intake, dust comes out easily. Next is the bottom cover. Since it has no electronics, you can take it to the sink and rinse it with tap water. Spray some kitchen cleaner to give it a thorough wipe. Just remember, ensure it's completely dry before reassembling. Finally, the accessories. Brush off surface dust first. Then use an alcohol swab to clean the SSD RAM and Wi-Fi card contacts. This prevents poor contact from dust. Clean the battery surface as well. Now, the interior is fully cleaned. It's much cleaner than before. Now, put the motherboard back. Time to reapply liquid metal and PTM. For the CPU, we're using Honeywell PTM 7950. For the GPU, Thermal Grizzly liquid metal. We're also using BPSP30, a thermal gel. First, apply a drop of liquid metal to the GPU. Spread it evenly with a small brush. Ensure the surface is perfectly covered. Next, on the CPU die, apply a properly sized piece of Honeywell PTM 7950. Then peel off the plastic film. Next, for the VRAMs and RAM, apply enough thermal gel. Once that's done, don't rush to reinstall the heatsink yet. Using Thermal Grizzly liquid metal again, apply a thin layer to the GPU heatsink area. This ensures full contact on both sides, creating a perfect thermal path. Now reinstall the heatsink and fans. Put all components back, then replace the bottom cover. Some of you might ask, why not use phase change pads for the GPU? But as you saw earlier, the original material had pumped out, and the GPU liquid metal had shifted too. Anyway, our maintenance is free. All materials are provided for free. We use what the factory used. We stick to that. I think it's fine. Alright, next, let's clean the exterior. Compared to the inside, cleaning the outside is much easier. We've cleaned the keyboard gaps. Now just wipe with alcohol wipes. PLI. Wipe away any remaining dirt. Next, the screen. Use a tissue to gather surface dust and clear it away. Then spray some screen cleaner. Wipe it down with a dry towel to remove any streaks. Keyboard and screen done. Now for the lid and hinges. Clean the dust under the hinges first. Open the back of this Strix. Use a vacuum and brush to clean the dust in the hinges. Then use alcohol wipes to wipe the hinges clean. Once every corner is spotless reinstall the hinges. Next, use alcohol wipes to scrub the lid to restore its metallic shine. Don't forget the edges and ports. Refurbishment complete. Oh, almost forgot, Mr. Jin. The power adapter is also very dirty, especially the connector. It's covered in dust. We'll also use WD-40 contact cleaner to clean Mr. Jin's power adapter. Now this Strix 9X 3D is like new. Compared to when we received it, it's a night and day difference. Let's plug it in and power it on. Once the screen lights up, it seems after breaking the dust balance, the Strix isn't acting up. Let's start with a stress test. To check the 9X3D's cooling, 10 minutes into the FPU test, CPU power stayed locked at 125 W. Core temperature was 94 degrees Celsius, hitting the 140 TDC limit. CCD temp difference was only 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. After 10 minutes, the 9955HX 3D's TDC limit dropped to 125 A. Power draw fell to 110 W. Core temp was only 85 degrees Celsius. That's 7 degrees Celsius lower than before. Dual stress test power was fine, steady at 55 W plus 140 W. Total core power of 195 W meets the 9X3D's official turbo mode rating. Power increased by 35 W. Both CPU and GPU were 76 degrees Celsius. Compared to before, they dropped by X and 10 degrees. This is the performance it should have. Auto-fit reset. After cooling, let's check performance gains. First, Cinebench R23. After maintenance, the 9955HX 3D's multi-core single-run score rose from 38,754 to 39,827, over 1,000 points higher. The 10-minute loop rose from 36,744 to 38,168. Compared to the single run, the drop was only 4%. Performance is very stable. Now for the GPU. After deep maintenance, the RTX 50 score hit 17,789, up 1,284 points from default. So, at this point, the cleaning and maintenance of Mr. Jin's SCAR 17 is now complete. Next is our performance optimization service, as mentioned in our previous review. With 40 TDC and 75 W max CPU power, the 7945HX 3D's 16 cores are useless for gaming. They're pure side effects. We disabled the CCD without 3DV cache for Mr. Jin, turning it into an 8-core 7845HX 3D equivalent. Then, for the BIOS, we used Hydra for memory overclocking, per-core undervolting, and fixed frequency. Finally, this optimized SCAR 17 shows massive gains in delta force. CPU averaged only 83 degrees Celsius during gameplay. The GPU was only 68 degrees Celsius. CPU stayed at 4.9 GHz without throttling. Average FPS rose from 180 to 216. 1% lows went from 111 to 144. That's a 30% increase. In the throttling logs below, no more throttling occurred. Finally, for Mr. Jin's specific troubleshooting requests. First, the network issue he mentioned. We used a packet loss test tool. After testing for 20 minutes, sending 70 to 1,000 packets, only 6 were lost. That's a 1/12,000th loss rate. The network card is fine. It seems the previous stuttering was likely caused by the heat in Africa. That's all for this VIKY. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Good night.